What's up, Nerfers? Welcome back to the N.A.P. It's time to assemble yet again. Josh, how are we doing today?
We're doing, buddy. It's a Monday. It's a long weekend, but busy weekend for me, and we got a lot of stuff to talk about. At first, I was like, maybe we don't have an episode until next week with the end of Wandavision. But when we were pulling together stories, it's like actually, there's a good amount of stuff to talk about.
Well, last week we just straight up didn't broadcast, and we didn't talk to each other either. We just kind of like skipped last week as if it didn't exist at all.
Right.
And I don't know what happened with it, but I didn't realize until Tuesday. I was like, wait a minute, I didn't do a podcast yesterday.
Yeah.
It was freaking me out a little bit. But yeah, we missed some stuff. Spiderman got a title, and that's about all I'm going to say about it because I mean, there's really not a lot of. There's a lot of speculation that could happen in there, but we've got way too much to talk about at this point, and it's such a tiny sliver of.
Yeah, it's in my image deck, but yeah, that was more like a lightning round size story. But I know we have some big stuff to talk about with WandaVision, but that'll be at the end.
We want to like format the show in a certain way to where we'll like answer viewer questions and do like lightning round stuffs at the beginning, but we had like nothing but big topics for this. Like, why don't we just kick it off? Let's just kind of jump into our first point here.
Last night was the Golden Globes, which I didn't watch because I was busy working on some stuff, but I did kind of follow the Twitter page because. You know, our both yours and mine, our biggest show was on the line for a couple awards last night, the Queen's Gambit, and it came home with two of them. Best limited television series, it won, and
didn't it win in both categories it was voted for?
Yeah,
I thought
it was
just those two, and it won.
Was it just those? I thought it was a third one, maybe not. But I mean, it won the two that we cared about, which was the best limited series and best performance by an actress in a limited series. So good on her. I mean, she's damn sure earned it. That's for certain.
Yeah, the whole team that put that series together did an excellent job. Honestly, I was looking through the winners yesterday because I didn't watch it either. I was just like, I don't care. Ricky Gervais isn't hosting it. I don't give a shit.
Listen.
Half of the reason I've watched in previous years is just to watch him roast celebrities.
He's a great host, but Tina Fey and Amy Poehler are like an iconic duo, and I'm not ashamed to admit I've gone back and watched their previous hosting gigs, like just anytime I need to pick me up because they're fantastic. And I did watch that. Like that's the only clip from the night that I've watched. And it was interesting that they were on two different sides of the country and kind of similar looking stages. And they just kind of put them next to each other on the screen, which is kind of funny. But I thought they still did a great job. They're a funny duo. That's for sure.
I have nothing against the two of them, but when I think of somebody who's going to mercilessly roast celebrities, I don't think
you prefer that British crass. Yeah, British crass is what you want, and that's what you get with Ricky for sure.
I loved it. What I found kind of funny, like the first thing I thought, because I was looking through everything, and I was looking through the best television series, and I didn't see The Queen's Gambit in there because at the time I wasn't remembering that it was a limited series.
Yeah,
and so it would technically fall into that category, which.
There's so many categories, you just get lost when you're trying to figure them all out.
Yeah, after a while, it's just like, God, whatever.
And then there's movies in this one too, and it's just like, oh my God.
Well, there's been movies in all of them, but.
Well, I mean, like you don't have TV with the Oscars, but you have movies with Golden Globes, and you have TV with Golden Globes, so it's all that on top of each other.
What I found funny was that The Mandalorian was in Best Television Series, and had one more episode than The Queen's Gambit. So it's just like, oh, okay.
Ozark it's an ongoing series, though. It's got multiple seasons.
True.
So.
That also makes sense. Ozark was in there, which I'm trying to watch right now. I'm not through season 1 yet.
Oh my God, I love that show so much.
I've got to be in a certain mood to watch that one. But so far, out of what I have seen, I'm like, all right, yeah, this is up there because this is Best Television Series Drama section we're talking about also. But Ratched was in there, and that made me laugh because I remember how much you didn't like that show.
Oh, effing hated that, and I'm so glad it didn't win anything. Right? Did it win? Tell me it didn't win.
I mean, it didn't win Best Television Series Drama.
Good, because
that's just the first category. So I just opened up a random article. This is from CBS News, and they put Best Television Series Drama at like the top of their list. I don't know if there was a specific order that they were reading them off in or anything like that, but
we're gonna be here all night.
The Crown ended up winning, so
the Crown.
I just thought it was
they
hilarious.
won a bunch. Yeah,
I just thought it was hilarious that Ratched was in there and you fucking hated it.
I just well, and I'm not the only one. A lot of people did not like that show. But we're not going to go through all of the winners, but I selected a few here that I was really happy about. So we talked about the two that won for Queen's Gambit. Jason Sudeikis won for Ted Lasso, and Ted Lasso is one of those Apple shows, and it's a comedy about an American football coach that gets hired on by a British soccer club, football over in the UK, and he just goes over there not knowing a damn thing about soccer, but he's one of the most like optimistic personalities, and it's one of those like feel good shows. It's a good comedy, and it's really funny, but he just brings like almost like a Mr. Rogers personality to it, and it's just fantastic. I love that show so much, and it was born out of a skit he did for like ESPN or something, and then they built a show around it. So the fact that it won in its first year, that's awesome.
I love that.
So,
Schitt's Creek did quite well as far as nominations this year. I don't think they won quite as many as they did last year.
No, but they cleaned house at the Emmys, so yeah, I mean, they're fucking fine.
The Crown took a lot of wins too.
They did. Sacha Baron Cohen got Best Performance by an Actor for the Borat sequel, which is awesome.
I still haven't seen it. I
thought
haven't watched it.
It was good.
Good deal.
And then on top of that, the film got Best Motion Picture Musical Comedy, which is that funny category because like The Martian won this one year, so it's like, okay.
I still find it weird that they combined musical and comedy into the same.
I know with all of the categories the Golden Globes have, they decided to combine these two, like because two more categories were going to break the belt or something like that. They got so much. But yeah,
I saw that our boy John Boyega won Best Performance by an Actor in a Television Supporting Role for Small Axe.
Yeah, I
which
haven't
is another
seen
show
that
that I
one.
haven't seen, but I really like.
I haven't even heard of it.
No, neither have I. I really like seeing though that these former like main Star Wars sequel actors are doing good, especially Finn because he got fucked over so bad.
Yeah, he did.
But,
And honestly,
yeah,
I mean,
I'm really happy to see his career is still going. I know he's winning shit.
well, good for him because Daisy Ridley has that Chaos Walking that's about to come out, but that's been delayed for several years. That's why it's coming out now. But she doesn't have anything new coming out for the foreseeable future. I mean, you look on her IMDb, she's rumored or attached to a lot of pre-production things, but nothing that's filmed since the last Star Wars movie. So when she finally comes back on the screen, it's going to be a minute. But good for him that he's out there getting roles and winning stuff. Talking about Sacha Baron Cohen, the other film he was a part of, Trial of the Chicago 7, won Best Screenplay.
I still gotta watch this. You're gonna get mad. But
Oh
I still
my
need to
God.
watch this show.
If anybody deserves Best Screenplay, it's this man, Aaron Sorkin. He knows how to write, and I was so happy that he got that because he deserved it. It's a damn good film.
He's got a really good established history of doing so too. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
the West Wing alone is an exercise in incredible writing.
He created he's the father in my eyes of the walking and talking thing, like
that's a big
every
thing in the script.
episode of the West Wing was how fast can we walk and how fast can we talk,
And it's always witty. It's always point to point. Everybody
oh,
knows
it's
exactly what
very-
you're talking about, no matter what.
very
So
tight.
it's-
Yeah, there's no filler. There's no like awkward silences. It's just like go, go, go. Daniel Kaluuya won for Judas and the Black Messiah, which I just watched 2 weeks ago, and hell of a good film, and he's a hell of a performer. I'm telling you. And the fact that I know it's not really a uncommon thing for a British guy to play an American actor, but I think more and more people are getting tricked by this guy because he's got a great American accent. Like, he just does it so well between this and what was that movie he did for Jordan Peele? Get Out. He's got it down on lock, you know. And he's got a strong British accent when it's like
he's got a great Afrikaans accent too.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, because he was in Wakanda. He was in Black Panther. Yeah. He's great. So I was happy he won, especially for this role, because this is a damn good movie. And after watching Trial of the Chicago 7, and you see his character in that, because his character is a part of that movie. It was just cool to see an extension of that. Schitt's Creek, you mentioned. Oh my gosh, it's going through like crazy. Calm down. Schitt's Creek. And then finally, Chadwick Boseman won for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which I haven't seen yet, but obviously he wasn't there to accept it, but that's kind of cool that he won that.
Yeah. Keep him alive.
I think his wife was the one that accepted it for him, and I did see the clip of her speech, and it was powerful. She had a lot of emotion. She was fighting hard to hold that emotion back, and
I imagine so.
Yeah, it was getting a lot of people teared up. So yeah, that was cool that he won that. Any other winners you want to talk about before we move on?
I mean, no, that was the big part. I mean, obviously, like, I got to mention Trent Rezner, just because he ended up winning for Soul, him and Atticus Ross. Which
is so crazy that they went from Watchmen, a very heavily R-rated show, to Soul.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just looking at Trent Reznor's his resume is kind of insane.
Did he win last year for Watchmen?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Because I know Watchmen was heavily nominated last year.
Let's see.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he was in the running for it last year.
He won the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Musical Composition for a Limited Series, and were nominated for Outstanding Music and Lyrics for their work on the series Watchmen.
Okay. So
he won the Emmy,
but
I don't see anything in here for a Golden Globe.
But he got one now.
Not for Watchmen anyway. He's got some other Golden Globe stuff. But yeah, just his thinking about this dude coming from 9 Inch Nails all the way to a multi-award-winning film composer is just
yeah.
I wanted to
great.
cap to him too, because I remember listening to 9 Inch Nails and being like,
I
bet none of these guys are going to end up having a career in the film world.
I mean, you wouldn't. It is crazy. Right, and then when you look back at his history, and he worked on The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo for Fincher's remake. He worked with Fincher again for The Social Network, and Social Network has a very recognizable score, and it's just, oh my god, it's fantastic. It's a fantastic score. And then coming back hard in the last couple of years with Watchmen and Soul. I mean, good on him, man. He's getting out there. That man's working hard for sure.
Well done, sir.
All right. Well, you wanted to talk about
the Golden Globes were pretty uneventful.
Oh my god, my PowerPoint is just all over the. Well, I mean, it was 2020. I mean, some good stuff came out of 2020.
Yeah.
If you can't say that everyone was on sleep last year. I mean, it's not like none of those awards were charity awards. I feel like they were all well earned. Oh, you know what? I didn't have her name on here. The only one that did come up was Rosamund Pike for I Do Care a Lot, or I Care a Lot, which was a Netflix show that came out this month. And I was kind of surprised that it was part of the Golden Globes, but that was the changes this year is that it could include the first month and a half of 2021 in their awards. And I Care a Lot just came out 2 weeks ago. And it was very much Rosamund Pike. She's the girl from Gone Girl. She's the actress from Gone Girl. Yeah. I don't want them to typecast her, but she has that crazy bitch persona down on lock. I mean, just in her eyes and in her confidence level, and then in the, I mean, which is not crazy or bitchy. A confident eyes are not, but then when you put her in the certain situations that they do in Gone Girl and in this one, oh my gosh, she is the villain. Like she is the villain that I will never see Emma Stone as for Cruella, but she is Rosamund Pike in I Care a Lot.
Be a better fit, actually. Yeah,
she probably would. She's intense.
She's got that resting psychopath face.
She does, so. And I think she earned that role. I loved the first half of that movie. I really thought the third act was weak as hell. Who else was in that? The dude from Game of Thrones, and the MCU. What's his name? Gosh darn it! MCU. Yeah, he was the dude that made Thor's axe. Peter Dinklage.
Yeah.
He's in there as a gangster, and he's just great. Like I said, the setup for this movie is fantastic, but the third act was just disappointing as hell. But she won for that, so good on her. But yeah, moving along, you want to talk about this K-pop story?
Well, I mean, it was interesting because, like, I come from the music industry. Like, that's my big. That's where I'm more comfortable as far as certain things. Definitely not from a K-pop world or anything like that. I don't listen to pop music or anything like that. But I mean, I have music on Spotify. I have stuff in that world. I've got it on that platform. Mm-hmm. You can find it yourself. I'm not going to plug it here. And so one of the things that comes up an awful lot, I mean, like even in streaming services, you could use kind of a similar argument here, is that when you've got like a music streaming service like Spotify that is as dominant as it is, like, I mean, when it really comes down to it, I really only consider like Spotify and Apple Music to be kind of like the two really big contenders, because you've got Spotify sitting there for Android users, and then you've got Apple Music there for Apple users. And when the two main mobile device brands are battling it out, the apps generally tend to take top spots as well. Well, K-pop has been on a huge boom of popularity over the last, I mean, it's been popular with the right people for quite a long time, but mainstream popularity has really started to blow up in the last couple of years. And it was interesting because so I pulled up an article here because I found this popped up in my Reddit feed yesterday. So it was from BBC. Hundreds of K-pop songs disappear from Spotify. Now, the first thing that I thought was, okay, is this a technical glitch or something like that? What's going on? But I find out Spotify said that its existing licensing deal with Kakao M had come to an end, quote unquote, but it hoped the disruption would be temporary. But the Korean company accused Spotify of refusing to extend its license. Kakao M is South Korea's top music distributor, responsible for 37.5% of the songs featured in the country's top 400 yearly song chart in 2020. It also owns and operates the country's top music streaming service, Melon, with 8.81 million monthly active users. And so when you've got, it really kind of comes down to, I don't want to say monopoly because it's kind of a.
It kind of sounds like that.
It's it's getting there. And when you've got, and the reason that I found it so interesting is because we've got a couple really big companies here. Obviously, who's heard of Melon in the United States as a streaming service? Nobody. I mean, even if you're a big K-pop fan, it might have come up a few times. Just in passing when you're reading up on more stuff around those stories. But like everybody here in the States has heard of Spotify. And like when you realize that like your favorite genre is just disappearing from the platform, from the dominant platform that you have availability to, all because of a contract argument, that's an interesting story to me. That jumps up in there because because I work in the cable industry. And we come up with like the same issues with major television providers. I'm not on that level to make those decisions or anything like that, but it kind of comes down to the same things. Like you are the pipeline for that content to get to people. Spotify, cable companies, certain video game selling platforms. If you're the main pipeline to those customers, it gives you I want to say borderline unprecedented amount of power over who's getting a hold of that content. And like, if you haven't, like, the first instinct that I had was like, okay, you had a licensing agreement. Can you work it out without punishing the fans? Because I mean, that's the big side effect. Yes, these companies are going to be taking a hit from not having the income from those streams coming through there. But also, I mean, we're just talking about Spotify being taken down. There's other platforms that are going to be benefiting from this at the same time. It's like, and I don't get me wrong, I love healthy competition because you've got not only, besides Spotify, you got Apple Music, you've got YouTube Music, which is kind of bouncing around a lot lately. It started as Google Music, then it was YouTube Music, and now it's a whole another weird thing that they're trying to do. You've got Amazon jumping in there. There's other streaming services too, but I can't remember them off the top of my head. But yeah, just like a dispute like this in a world where the competition is available but not necessarily prevalent is interesting to me. It's like, because I mean, do you want to bounce around multiple different platforms to listen to music on a daily basis? No.
Well, and it's the timing. It's the timing of this, because Melon has been around since 2009. So it's not a new streaming service. It's literally the biggest streaming service in South Korea, and it's been around for 11 years. You're telling me that a month after Spotify launches in South Korea, 1 month, they suddenly lose the rights, or not lose the rights, but suddenly there's a issue with the licensing for, you know, some of the biggest names in K-pop. I mean, I would think that if you're about to launch in this country and you've got a considerable amount of artists from that country, you would make sure ahead of time that everything was good on paper. I don't think this was a fluke. It certainly doesn't sound like it.
It does not.
It sounds like they're trying to do something or affect Milan, or try to. It really does feel like a monopoly type situation. It's like they're not even trying to hide it. I mean, a month after they launch, they just pull all these names, and it's not just about the money that these bands and these studios get from Spotify. It's also the the clicks, the views, or whatever. You know, that's part of Billboard. That's part of awards and stuff like that. It's a lot bigger than just. It's all those clicks go to so many different reports and everything. It's not just about these bands making money off Spotify, but certainly you take it off Spotify, and it's not just off Spotify in Korea, it's off Spotify everywhere. Especially since K-pop has been coming out of Korea more, you know, and it's making a dent in America and in other countries and everything. To kick them off of Spotify because of a licensing issue, that sounds fishy to me, man. That's really weird.
And it was the phrasing that Spotify used, saying, despite our best efforts, the existing licensing deal we had with Kakao M has come to an end. As if they were like trying to make this huge effort for it. And then you've got the other company from the other side saying, it's like, no.
Unfortunate for their artists as well as for fans and listeners worldwide, reads the Spotify statement. But again, you launch in this country and a month later you lose their biggest names. That's just suspicious, man.
Yeah.
That's way suspicious. And I get it.
It reminded me a lot of when The Office got bounced off of Netflix.
You're right.
And went to Peacock, and that was why it was interesting to me, because this is going to become kind of a standard. I feel like this isn't going to be the last that we're going to hear of news stories like this. Maybe not quite on this scale. But
when
you've got competing services going at each other over specific pieces of content, it's going to happen again.
But okay, and now you're making me think about it from the other way. When you just gave that example of The Office leaving Netflix and going over to Peacock, that was an example of Peacock saying, hey, we got our new streaming service. Of course, we're going to have one of our biggest moneymakers. So is there a chance that Milan was like, Spotify's coming to Korea? we're gonna pull our shit off that platform, and you can only get it on Milan to keep Milan alive. Do you think that's a possibility?
I think that's why this story is so interesting to me, is because it can go, because like there's no real
It could
way
be
to know.
one of the two.
When you've got both of these companies pointing fingers at each other saying, no, you're doing this, no, you're doing this, you're
Right.
the one pissing off all these fans, no, you're the one pissing off all these fans, because that's in the public optic, that's the thing that they're really concerned about, is who's
Sure.
angrier at who. And I mean, if they can skate that shit off, then they're not going to worry about licensing deals or anything that they can deal with at that point. But, yeah,
but I could see Milan doing that with Korea, but then sacrificing their listeners and the rest of the world because of this. When, like you said, Milan's been around since 2009. I've never heard of it. You never heard of it, and yet it's the biggest streaming service in South Korea, but it's not Spotify in the rest of the world. So I can't imagine they would burn the rest of the world just to save their footing in Korea. But who knows?
So
I mean, it's interesting.
The big thing is that the first connection that came to my mind is that Samsung's a really big Korean company, and yeah, Samsung is like the dominant streaming service for most Samsung devices is Spotify, and like I wonder. I mean, just if I was guessing, if I had to guess, it would be Spotify.
Now we're getting all into conspiracy theories.
I mean, not necessarily a conspiracy theory, but the impact is pretty heavy in that area.
Sure, for sure.
With Spotify coming into that area and having to have those competing services there, it's like, you know what? It's like, what kind of a fight do you really want to pick right now, Spotify? Is this necessary? Do you need to be doing this? Because who's suffering? Not like these corporate executives are just like, if they're losing money, they're losing like a few hours off of their yearly 14 vacations or something like that. It's like, if they're gaining money, they're gaining money in like ridiculous proportions to where they don't even notice it anymore. They're just like, whatever, an extra $1 billion in the bank, who cares? So it's not these companies suffering, it's the fans. It's the fans and the artists. And it sucks that these companies just aren't like in the public eye, they're just pointing fingers at each other instead of trying to find a solution. They're playing the blame game. And that was why I found it so interesting, because we don't know necessarily what actually happened. I don't think we ever will. But we're going to start to see more and more stuff like this, because this is the new mainstream pipeline for content, is streaming services. And when things start to get to this extent to where licenses are being argued with, and like in the cable industry, we do the exact same thing. If you've ever been watching like certain network channels, and then out of absolutely nowhere, you get a slate across your screen that says, hey, we're in the middle of a contract dispute with this company. And it's come from providers. It's also come from the network, where they're just like, you know what, we're not going to broadcast to their feed because this cable company is screwing us over. Or the cable company will do the same thing. It's like, this network screwing us over. This has been going on for so long, but now it's migrating onto this new wave of ways of bringing entertainment. And I found it really intriguing. It was really interesting. It's probably a more boring subject than a lot of people are wanting to come to this podcast for. But I think we're going to see stuff like this pop up a little bit more often over time, to where eventually this is kind of like a regular story. And it's not really that newsworthy anymore, because it's like, oh, it's happening again. They'll figure it out, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then over and done with.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting story. Thanks for bringing that up. We'll have to keep an eye on this, because that's pretty compelling stuff. I had seen the licensing part of it. I did not see the other streaming app part of it. So yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. Moving forward, you mentioned
think any
this.
of us have to worry about it though.
Yeah,
because we're not in Korea and we're not.
You
K-pop
mentioned
fans, so.
You mentioned this earlier. This is a fan graphic, but yeah, No Way Home was the final home title that they went with. Of all the, what did they have, like Home Wrecker and Phone Home and
Phone Home.
There was one other.
Zendaya posted one that was
Home Slice. That was the other
Home Slice.
unofficial official titles that they released.
Yeah. It was funny that they're spitting out fake titles, and then the reveal video, it was like Tom Holland coming out of like the director's office, be like, he gave me another fake name, and then they walk by the bulletin board and it's on there, and the epic music kicks in, and all the other 1,400 different titles that they tried coming up with.
There's a ton of them on that board. Yeah, I kind of like this one because especially after the events of the last one, with Jake Gyllenhaal outing Spider-Man to the world, this makes sense. So, yeah.
Well, that being the big one, obviously, is that Peter Parker, like our Peter Parker, Tom Holland's Peter Parker, can't go back to the life that he had before. That damage is done. That insinuates that, but it's also like we know at this point that there's going to be some multiverse shit going on because we've got the other Spider-Man actors who've been confirmed, other Spider-Man villains, as well.
Yeah.
That have been confirmed
not Spider-Man actors yet, but Spider-Man villains yet, for sure.
Yeah, there's been a lot of, not absolutely 100% confirmed, but almost enough.
Yeah, Tom Holland saying I don't think so doesn't really mean anything.
No, Tom Holland doesn't know shit about this movie. Tom Holland knows absolutely nothing about this movie.
I mean, that's the running gag that if there's a secret, they're not going to tell you, buddy. But
it was like the ending scene for Endgame, the funeral scene. He was told that it was a wedding.
You thought it was a wedding?
So,
really somber black tie wedding.
Yeah, and they get given fake scripts all the time. Like I have no there. But yeah, seeing the news that the villains are going to be in there, it's like, okay, is there going to be a multiverse thing to where these other Spider-Man actors can't get home either? And that's like the major plot. They're trying to get them back out. We know that Doctor Strange is going to be involved, which is why I love that the graphic that they used was the Sling Ring portal.
Yeah, and again, this is a fan graphic. But still, it makes sense.
I like that they included it in there because if we see Doctor Strange, I'm pretty sure a scene like this is probably going to emerge. But we've also got some like WandaVision wonkiness that might tie into this stuff too, which I'm pretty excited to talk about as well.
Very true. One more thing before we do that, we've got some Superman news. A couple big things Superman related lately. First of all, last week, the new Superman show on CW aired. Did you get a chance to see this?
Not yet. No, I've got a lot coming through the pipe right now. And so
well, I'm sure you've been busy.
The limited free time that I have has been devoted to WandaVision.
Well, I'll give my non-spoilery review. Having not seen the bulk of the Arrowverse from the last couple years, I know that this actor has played Superman in those shows in like crossover events, but this is his first time he gets his own series. I'm not sure how connected this show will be to that because it seems very disconnected. Granted, they could always have a crossover episode just like they do in the comics. It's not always connected, but every once in a while they throw something in.
You already told me that the tone was like way different.
The tone is crazy different, man. There was Man of Steel vibes with this show.
I like it.
If you haven't seen the trailer, the basic premise is, and this show is not an origin show. He's been Superman for a long time. He's married to Lois Lane. And in fact, they have 2 teenage boys. These aren't adopted boys. These are their boys that have grown up. So they've been a family for these boys are in high school. They've been a family for, good 15, 16 years.
Yep.
And things happen that get them to come back to Smallville. And it's all about kind of, the first episode deals a lot with death, deals a lot with personal sacrifice. And it's a kind of a bleak world. Like, Clark Kent loses his job at the paper company, the Daily Planet. They're laying off people there. The kids are going into high school, and Lois is kind of worried that if they do have powers, now is the time that they're going to start, coming out. And is that safe? And things aren't going really well for the families in Smallville. That place is kind of a dump now, and farmers are losing their homes. It was a really well-written and well-paced 90-minute first episode. I really, really enjoyed it. And this is coming from a guy who I loved the last, Clark and Lois TV show that we got, the Adventures of Lois and Clark way back in the day. I don't know if you ever watched this show, but this show was campy as hell, and I loved it so damn much. This was a good show back in the day, but the new version is definitely a little more somber toned. It had great cinematography. It looked really good. My only worry is everything that they put out there to promote this show, the tone, the commercials, all came from the first episode. So my worry is that I wonder if the rest of the show is as good as the first episode, or are we going to go back to our age-old Arrowverse ways, CW ways?
Yeah, I mean, if they go that direction, then the hype that I have for this show will disappear.
Yeah,
because I'm actually interested in this because it's blowing up. Like a lot of people are saying, is like this is a turn from the CW side stuff, and that was exciting to me because it's the tone of the other CW series, Flash, Arrow, Supergirl. I'm just not into it. It's because get into it.
It's because it's CW. They can't let shit die. Like they are known for shows that had amazing first seasons, and then 10 years later that show is still alive and no one likes it anymore. One Tree Hill was like one of their first huge shows back in the day, and that thing ran for 10, 11 seasons. It's ridiculous. Smallville ran for 10 seasons, too long. Arrow had an amazing first season. Arrow did more in one season than Smallville did in 10 seasons, and look at it now. Well, Arrow's done now, but nobody, by the end seasons, nobody wanted any more of Arrow. They're like, really? That show's still around?
I mean, I got bored with it after like season 3. I didn't watch past that point. I was just like, I'm done. Like,
and even Flash had a decent first season. Well, it was back and forth, campy and serious.
I just got sick of the origin bullshit in like every episode.
For sure.
We're flashing back between that and
for sure.
All right, the first season it was great. We got his origin story. We don't need more than that. Can we tell? Mm-hmm. Can we tell a cogent story?
Oh yeah, with Arrow, with the island flashback tropes. Yeah, that was a lot.
It got old so quick, even in the first.
And then
season,
it got to him leaving the island and coming back to the island. We're like, oh my god, how long are you gonna draw this out? He was like James Bond for a while, and then he went back to the island.
So I wasn't big on the DC side when I was actually reading comic books. Have you seen? Were you in on Superman? On the comic book side?
When I grew up, a little bit, yes. When I was younger, but then I, like a lot of people I've talked to, got tired of Superman because Superman was he was all power, and they rarely wrote good stories that made him vulnerable or that made you care about him. Like you had the Death of Superman story, which came out to mirror the Nightfall story in Batman. And Death of Superman was like the last great epic around Superman and the Superman mythos. But then after that, they just, there was one year that they gave him electric powers and they made him blue. And everybody was like, no. And then there was Red Superman. And, they've done things over the years with like Red Sun, where they put everything in Russia. That was like a good alternate tale. But Superman in the comics has always struggled, I think, because he's just so damn powerful. It's hard to write compelling stories. But this is a good, they got rid of the origin. They give you like a 3-minute catch you up where things are. But this is well into his career. They just expect you to be a smart, intelligent audience and catch up real quick. Yeah.
So the reason I asked was to see if there was any like comic references that you were seeing that like maybe particular around this storyline, because the show that we're watching right now and we're gonna finish at the end of this week has had a lot of that.
The villain in the first episode, which I won't give away, when it's revealed who they are at the end, it references some events that's happened in comics and in DC games. Or at least it hints to that, and it could be that storyline, could be a totally different storyline. But the way they revealed it, it could be that, and I nodded to that. But otherwise, it didn't feel like other stories. It felt really fresh. I don't remember I don't remember Superman having teenage boys. You know, that adds a new element to this that's really well done. His chemistry with Lois is really well done. His connection to the military, really well done. It's a great first episode. And the fact that the CW has only signed on for 15 episodes in the first season instead of their normal, 24 that most of those those DC shows get. Like, they usually get 22 to 24.
It's just too
15
much.
still feels like a lot, but
Yeah, it does.
But it has the
Like
potential
12.
to be better.
We were doing like 12 for the Netflix Marvel series. And
Hell, WandaVision has 9. You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not going to use WandaVision as an example because those episodes feel way too fucking short.
Sure.
But those Netflix series shows were like 40 plus. They were closer to the hour mark than anything else. And they did like 12 episodes, and that was like, okay, this is too much, guys. You're like, you gotta like,
10, 12 seems to be the sweet spot. That 24 episode is like a decade old, and they still use it for some shows. So 15 coming from the CW has me a little bit like, okay, all right, maybe you're making some changes. We'll see. But I haven't seen the second episode, and it comes out on Wednesdays or comes out on Tuesdays. So second episode will show me whether or not they're committing to this tone or if that was just a hell of a good pilot and then the rest of it is downhill from there. We'll see. But that's not the only Superman news we have to talk about.
I was going to say, let's jump to your next bullet point here.
So they've just announced a new Superman movie is in the works. And it's coming from stuff. Yeah, it's too much. It's coming from Ta-Nehisi Coates is the director, and it's coming from J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot Studio, which if you want to reboot a franchise, go to J.J. Abrams. Apparently, he's the only one that can do it. J.J. Abrams,
if you're going to do a trilogy, let him do all fucking 3 movies. All right.
Well, he's just producing this. So
still
he's just producing it. And this actually, I don't know if Ta-Nehisi Coates is the director. I think he's the writer. He's not the director, and he's written some big books in the past. So it could be good. There's a lot of speculation right now about whether or not this is going to be a black Superman, because some people are like, oh yeah, it's you take it to the bank. They've decided they're going to make a black Superman movie. They've been talking about it for years. It's been rumored for years. They're finally doing it. But as to what I've looked into, they haven't officially announced that. There's also the rumor that for sure this will not have Henry Cavill in it. That hasn't officially been announced yet either, but a lot of people are saying, yep, they're moving on from him, which is sad to me. But a lot of rumors around this.
Well, I mean, they've already bounced Batman's too, so I mean, for
sure,
Batfleck didn't last very long. Like, honestly, the DC cinematic universe is just such a mess right now that
it is.
This sounds like a good turn. Like, all right, you know what? Let's shake things up. Let's try something very different. Let's go a different direction. Finally, like, because they've tried the formula that they've been doing. They've tried to, like, the copycat formula that they were going with, and it's just not working. How many movies in the new DC cinematic universe are we into? We've got Batman versus Superman. Crap. We had Wonder Woman, which was okay. I'll give it okay. And then Wonder Woman 2, or Wonder Woman 1984, which was not okay. It was a little below okay, in my opinion. Like the scale of her struggle just kind of like dropped to me in that one. Aquaman was okay. Suicide Squad was okay. If it hadn't had Will Smith in there, I'm like worried. Like, but they're trying like all like it kind of like they didn't stick with like the super dark tone that we saw in the Dark Knight trilogy that worked really well. They didn't really stick to the Man of Steel formula, which was very hopeful and very powerful. they went in this offbeat, weirder direction, and honestly, it didn't play out. It really didn't work for me.
I think too many hands were in the kitchen.
That's
I think
probably
I think a lot of people saw hope in Man of Steel, while a lot of people did not. And I think when you inspect it, you can see a lot of hope in that, but a lot of people just saw dark, mopey Superman, and then gave the studio shit for that. Look, this is the thing here. I 100% fully agree. When you compare the two, and I don't think you should compare the two, but you can't help compare Marvel and DC. MCU,
when they're trying to build their market off of that same response.
I don't think DC are, but I think a lot of people acted like they were. But MCU has their shit down on lock. Good for them. DC, yeah, their movies have been all over the place. But I would argue that their casting has been legit. When I think of Harley Quinn on screen, I think of Margot Robbie. When I think of Wonder Woman, I think Gal Gadot. When I think of Aquaman, I think of Jason Momoa. I'm sad because when I think of Batman, I think of Ben Affleck, and we know they're moving away from that. When I think of Superman, if there's any living actor that could play Superman, it's Henry fucking Cavill. He is legitimately Superman. And what saddens me is that a year ago, I sound like the Joker. A year ago, there were reports of what's his face from the director of Mission Impossible, the latest Mission Impossible films.
I can't remember that off.
What's his Christopher? Is it? Christopher McQuarrie. He's done the last couple Mission Impossible films, which have just been stellar. Great. He apparently went
action director.
Yeah,
Excellent.
He apparently went to Warner Brothers with a Superman story for Henry Cavill. And the fact that we didn't get that means
that makes me sad.
It makes me sad, man. And a lot of people are behind. A lot of people are behind Henry Cavill. If he's not in this new movie, I can't help but think that there's something going on behind the scenes with him and Warner Brothers. He either rubbed somebody the wrong way, he tried to get too much money, he's hard to work with, or something. I don't know that because I've never read that or know it for certain. But what else can you think at this point if so many people are like, this is the legit Superman, but Warner Brothers can't pull the plug on the next pressure. Superman movie?
100%.
No, I think the majority of the public like him as Superman. They just don't like his Superman films.
Doesn't matter if it's a majority though, because man, if you do not have a ironclad Man of Steel mental state, artists are sensitive people. We live off of the criticism that other people give our work. Mm-hmm. And how many movies can you take where you're playing the same character and somebody's telling you and it's not been the majority. He has to see the reviews that these movies are getting, and then
I think those reviews,
the crap that they're getting.
I think those are mainly based on the stories and not the actors. I've yet to meet a person that didn't think he encompassed Superman. I think they just didn't like the stories he was casted in. You get a new writer like this guy in here, I gotta believe he can write a good story, but does that mean they have to recast Superman?
That's fine, but the success of the movie is not based off of just how good Henry Cavill does. If the story's crap, but Henry Cavill does a great job, it's still going to show the movie as tanking.
Right, but again, I don't think that means you have to recast. I think that just means you need new writers.
I don't think that's a reason to recast either. But if Henry Cavill isn't on board, if he's just like, I just don't want to do this anymore. Maybe it's because of the direction that they've gone. He plays the character really well. He understands the character, obviously. He understands the character of Superman big time. Maybe if there's a direction that the story is making him take, and he's just I'll stick to I'll steer away from the Marvel side of things. Mark Hamill had a similar thing here. But he pressured through it, but he was outright adamant that the direction for Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi and in Rise of Skywalker was not the direction that he wanted to go.
He didn't mix words with that, yeah.
But there were a lot of fans who liked it. There were newer Star Wars fans who didn't grow up watching his versions of the movies who really liked it. It's you know what? He got those words of encouragement, but he also got a lot of backlash. And he had to like, how many times can you explain yourself to fans who are angry about how the movie went? It's like, sorry, it wasn't really my decision. I had to play the character that was there.
Well, I just think
as a creative can absolutely see how somebody could just get mentally drained from having to deal with that and just, you know what, just not want to do it anymore. He's getting other work. He's getting other great work. Like he might have come up across a project that he likes more. And he's just like,
it's
you know
not
what?
like
This character just isn't that close to me anymore.
Yeah, it's not like he's for lack of working. He's got the Witcher series. I've heard he's also been in talks for Mass Effect series as well. He's got
one of those Mission Impossible movies, like
which is why Christopher McQuarrie came over to the WB. Look,
maybe not getting to do that movie with him might have been like kind of a deciding factor there too.
I go back to the point that we have not officially heard that he's not a part of this, but that's heavily what the rumors are. If they find a way to keep him, I think people would give him another chance. I think everything we've seen him in has been connected to Zack Snyder. And I think if you really brought it down to it, most people like him. They just don't like the stories. I like the stories. I didn't like Justice League, which is why I'm excited for the Snyder Cut. However, going back to this story, the rumor that there's a black Superman coming, this could be, there's people talking about, they're just going to cast a black Clark Kent, or this could be Calvin Ellis, which was a black Superman from another world. He was from Earth. He was from one of the other Earths, and they did a whole story around him. So it's not like
over in Superman and over in DC.
Yeah, it's not like there's other things we can't do, you know. But yeah, I think a lot of some people are jumping up in arms like, we can't have a black Superman. Superman's white. Well, we've had black Superman in the past. They've just been different stories. Either way, all they've announced is they're going to develop a new movie. It's going to be helmed by Bad Robot, and this guy is going to write it. So we have no idea what's coming. Just because he's a black writer doesn't mean it's a black Superman. Just because could be a black Superman. Is that how the
rumor originated?
Oh, that's how it originated for sure.
Yeah? Okay.
And just because, and if it is a black Superman, that doesn't mean it's not going to be good. Just, if anything, J.J. Abrams knows how to reboot a franchise. He doesn't really know how to keep that franchise going, but he knows how to do that first movie. I think we can all agree the first movies he's done have been pretty good.
To be fair, I think that if he had control over The Last Jedi, things would have gone very different.
But he had control over the Star Trek films, and those ran awry as well after he...
Lesson learned. You piss off one of the major space faring movie franchises. You don't piss off the other one.
I guess. Anyway, so that's a developing story. Anything else for the lightning round before we get into WandaVision?
Well, personally, I would love to see a black Superman, because that's a story that we haven't seen told before, and so it's a unique, fresh perspective. That's what I'm talking about. Like, if it's done right. Yeah, just do the character right. Like Superman is all about hope.
And who's to say that they can't come up? It could be a black Clark Kent, or it could be another character. I mean, guess what, guys? We have a black Rocky, and it's not Rocky who's black now. It's a person that they wrote into that universe, and they made it work.
Badass.
The Apollo Creed movies are
killed it.
Or the Apollo Creed movies. It's the Adonis Creed movies. They're so damn good. They're so damn good.
Don't call him Baby Creed. But yeah. No, like
So,
I think it's racist in and of itself to assume that we're going to get a black Superman because we have a black writer, but yeah, that's thankfully not the one that we're doing. I don't have any lightning round stuff. I want to fucking talk about WandaVision so bad.
I had one, but we can develop it later. It was
no, give it to me. Hit me with it, because I want to keep WandaVision quick, because we do have the finale coming. We don't need to go over absolutely every detail again.
So there's one lightning round story in that AMC theaters, which furloughed over 600 people last year. They just gave their CEO a $3.75 million bonus on top of the $9 million he already makes, as well as $8.3 million in bonuses in total to all of their executives. Some of the other AMC executives got bonuses between $173,000 and $507,000 each. Yeah. It's I know they've kind of had some things with the stocks over the last month. They were kind of part of that GameStop high, but man, way to make yourselves look like an asshole when you got rid of so many people and then you just give millions in bonuses to your top executives. It's kind of a dick move.
I saw a photo of him and I thought he was that douchebag from like I shouldn't say that, but I thought he was that dude from the Marcus Theater. That's fucking annoying ass advertising.
Oh my god!
Before the movies here at our local theater.
Don't hurt the Marcus Theater guy.
As soon as I saw it,
he's just a nice guy.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. His videos kind of look so similar. His videos are so dad-like, it's ridiculous. Like, I mean, that's exactly what it is.
It kind of looks similar. I'll give you that.
They did. Like when I looked up this article, like I saw a picture of the lead guy. I was like, oh fuck, is it that dude? I was looking for a reason to hate this motherfucker.
Yeah,
but it wasn't.
So
like, he's in the clear still.
So hundreds of people lost their jobs from your company, but you are perfectly fine with giving your top 5 executives, hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in bonuses. Way to make yourself look great, AMC. And if you want a better reaction than that, go watch John Campia's show today. He went off. I mean, you could see the veins in that dude's head, and he used to be connected with AMC. He was livid. He was screaming at the screen. God, it just makes... I love AMC, man. I love them so much, and holy shit, this makes them look bad.
We were rooting for them too, because they're like,
we were all summer.
When theater comes back, we need you guys. We need you to keep this.
And you pull this crap
open.
You pull this crap, really?
Now they're dicks.
Come on, man. The guy was already making $9 million salary. He really needs another 3. 3.7. Come on, man. Anyway,
give it to your furloughed employees, man.
Yeah, and if not directly to them, then some type of program to bring them back or to help all of your struggling branches, because it's not over. Why are you patting yourselves on the back? It's not over. He saw that GameStop Wall Street. Maybe he saw a post on Wall Street Bets that AMC was going to do real good here. He's like, all right, I need to cash in on this before shit goes to the wolves. Yeah. Anyway, way to make yourselves look terrible. Let's get into WandaVision. We since we talked about it last, we talked about episode 6. We've had episode 7, episode 8. Next week is the finale. This week is the finale. I put together some images for each episode 7 and 8. But quick thoughts. Well, first of all, let me get that spoiler banner up here, because we're deep into the show.
I'm honestly, like, every episode that we've done talking about WandaVision, we haven't gotten any backlash either. Nobody's like, hey, you guys are spoiling stuff for me. But we wait a few days. And Monday after the release, or Monday after the Friday of the release of the episode, is when Marvel tends to start like throwing, when they use it in their promo content, they use stuff from the previous episode. So, I mean, you got a whole weekend to watch like a 20-minute show. I mean, I'm not gonna feel bad if we spoil something for you.
So last we saw,
bad, but not responsible.
Not responsible. Well, you shouldn't be. Last we saw of WandaVision, Vision tried to escape. Wanda figured out, expanded the bubble to pretty much take in a bunch of those military dudes. We saw that she had a lot of control, and it looks like she had a lot of control. She got Vision back. Kat Dennings, Darcy character, got sucked into the bubble, and we were wondering if it was going to continue on with the sitcom thing. It did. It went to the Modern Family sitcom for episode 7 with the whole, speaking to the fourth wall breaking stuff. See, episode 7, before we get into it, for me, it was the weakest episode for me. I didn't really care for it. I thought the sitcom element was weak, and I thought it was mainly filler.
It was absolutely filler. This was Like whenever I see an episode like this, it reminds me of that line from Return of the King that Gandalf says, like, right, he and Pippin are standing there at the edge. He said, it's the deep breath before the plunge. It's so, and Pippin, and it's after Pippin says it's so quiet. I was like, yeah, it is quiet because fucking nothing happened. Like
nothing happened.
Like right until it was all until the very end that we actually like started to get some suspense, and then that motherfucking credit scene showed up again.
For sure. And you know, the Modern Family wasn't the first to do this type of style, the fourth wall breaking. I don't even know if The Office was the first one, but The Office was one of the first ones that did it and made it really popular.
Popularized it is a safe.
They popularized it. I'm not sure
phrase.
if they were the first, but they definitely popularized it. However, for that kind of show that was a quick 30-minute comedy, it worked. For other shows, when they do this, it's like the modern day equivalent of soap operas, because it just extends the episode's runtime and it allows for less stuff to happen because they're talking to you. It's filler within a filler episode. So it kind of made sense to me that nothing really happened until the end, but it annoyed the crap out of me, and it annoyed the crap out of its own characters. Because even Vision was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What is this?
I mean, there was, I liked that. I liked
but he was like calling it out,
broke himself out, and it was cool that it was neat because like the interview scene was happening at the same time, like in another like almost another alternate reality.
Right. While he was sitting in the truck, he was also doing the interview. Yeah.
Yeah, he was sitting in the truck and it was moving, and then he's doing an interview in a completely different spot outside the truck with like a full set and all that shit.
Yeah,
like,
the boom mic and a chair and a lapel and everything. Yeah,
it was so weird, but it was fun. But yeah, beyond that, like not a lot happened. Darcy is apparently also a watcher up there with fucking Stan Lee, because she just knows everything that happened in the Marvel universe since Vision died.
Yeah, like did Captain, when he was going to those AA meetings for 5 years, did he just give out like all the details? Because she's not even like S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, how did she know what happened? She was able to give play-by-plays.
I can't think of any Avengers alive that are super friendly with reporters.
And like, is the Hulk out there selling stories? I know Black Widow ain't.
Honestly, dude, I would love. Man, I've got to. So it was a stupid. I've got to look up the actor's name because I can't remember it off the top of my head. I gotta find him in here real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, Michael Pena's character. I would love. It's happened so much, but I would love to see like a post-credit scene or something where Darcy's on a blind date with the guy, and he's just spilling all these details that Ant-Man told him, because that would make sense. That would like kind of close the gap in a really funny way. It'd be a little cheap, but it would be kind of hilarious.
Except Ant-Man wasn't there. Ant-Man wasn't there for Infinity War. He was in the quantum realm. He wasn't at the realm,
but he was there for Endgame. I'm sure somebody filled him in.
Yeah, but she was talking about like play-by-play events that happened in Wakanda. I mean, unless Michael Pena was on like a far, he was like on a far hill.
Dream here, man. Give me a break.
He's on a far hill with like binoculars, and he's watching the whole events, and then he's like, he's telling Darcy on a blind date. That would be funny. It wouldn't make sense, but it would be hilarious. But yeah, she knows everything. You're right.
She did. And he
breaks her out of character
in a lot of areas too. Like she
hacking.
She was a hacker in the previous one. Like
she's just everything.
I mean, she's got her doctorate now, and you kind of forget, like especially when you do what I do every now and then, where I'll like watch the films in chronological order.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of forget how much time passes by between
for sure
everything. And it's like I mean, I guess when Natalie Portman's character got run off for all the various things that she was doing, she and Darcy split up. I was like, who knows what she got into? But still, at the same time, I'm just like, all right, some of this is kind of unbelievable. But yeah, it was the amount of knowledge that she had on it,
she was just filling Vision in. And
like she had intimate details that he got brought back to life through time, got the stone ripped out of his head, and then Wanda had to watch. But like, how did you see the movie? Like, what the
right?
Like, are we gonna get a Spaceballs moment where they're gonna pull out the fucking Endgame Blu-ray and watch what happened?
That's what it was. There were drones in the sky filming the whole thing.
It was so weird.
And even Vision's looking at us like, come on, guys. This is just, we know this episode is a little wonky. You just got to get through it.
We got a good
big
line,
reveal
though.
at the end.
Like we got a good line in their conversation where she's talking about, it's like, I've been watching WandaVision for
Oh yeah,
however
she's a
long
fan.
she mentioned. She's like she's into it, like which I do find like a funny additive that they put in there. But then she talks about how it was like, I've seen how you and Wanda are. That's love. The love you guys have is real. And I was like, you know what? That's great.
For
And
watching a show of only a couple episodes. I mean, she's only watched as many episodes as we have, and she can say that, and that's pretty cool, you know.
But that's what
that
she was focusing on, you know. Like that was something that she was thinking about. She wasn't like trying, like it wasn't all the other sword people where she's like trying to find out. It's like, how is this happening? Are the other people inside there okay? None of that. Like she just gets brought back out of this reality by Vision, who releases her again. And our questions on how he did that all get answered in the next episode.
Right. And that's a big deal, though. The love is a big deal because Vision is coming out of this. He's in this funk right now where he doesn't know who he is. He doesn't have any memory of the life before this. He realizes that Wanda, he even says it in this episode, Wanda clearly has this past that she's dealing with. For me, Darcy just told me in the car, I don't really have any connection to it. He feels for Wanda, but he's kind of stuck in this. He doesn't really know how to feel because it's not him. You know, he doesn't have that connection. But
and he doesn't remember anything before Westview, and he was very adamant to point that out.
Right.
It's just like, and he hates it. Like he's terrified, like he's scared. And that was like
meanwhile,
that was like a moment of comfort for him. That was like the first comfort that Vision had gotten outside of like Wanda, which he didn't know if he could believe. And because he got it from Darcy, and it was a nice moment. It was a nice line.
Because it meant that something out of all of this was real, and that obviously felt good for him. Meanwhile, Monica's story continued, and she went over the hill to meet her guy.
Forward too.
Well, before we even get to her blue eyes thing here, she went over the hill to meet her guy, and what's his face from Fantastic Four? No, it was nobody.
No, it was nobody.
It was nobody. He was the biggest red herring I've ever seen. Like, they did that shit on purpose. There's no way they hyped that for like 3 episodes and then it's nobody, you know.
Marvel like HQ had nothing but just a bunch of Twitter pages open in their headquarters there, watching people freak out right around the time that this episode was coming out, just all day, just laughing their dicks off.
I mean, they set it up. They set it up so much, and then I don't know if they did that on purpose or if it was a mistake. But I don't know that people took that and ran for it.
I don't know that they set it up too much. I think that they did absolutely nothing to stop fan speculation from getting out of control.
But the writing, she kept on saying, I've got a guy who's a big in astrology. And then they mentioned the astronauts. Hey, I got a guy who can hook us up. He's just over the hill. The next episode,
to be
my
fair,
guy's here.
She didn't meet a guy.
I know.
She didn't meet a guy. This is his ground team. So.
But she said, I've got a guy. The guy's here. I'm going to meet the guy. I'm not talking about the sex. I'm just saying she referenced this character like 4 times. That's hype. That's the writer hyping you up for who is this guy. And of course, fans, we talked about this. The fans are going to speculate all day. I'm not upset that the fan speculation didn't happen. I'm upset that the writers clearly wrote something and then it was nothing. You know, it was just nobody. Which was and we've heard about a cameo coming. That's maybe there still is in the final one, but that was a little disappointing.
So that got confirmed by Paul Bettany that the character had not, like, as of season 8 or as episode 8, the character had not shown up yet. Like that cameo had not popped in.
That was as of episode 7 that he said that.
Or episode
because
7.
However, there's a fan theory now that he was actually talking about himself, because we'll get into that in a second. But in this, Monica decides she's going to go through no matter what. She
can make it through too. She's pretty confident that she can get through without any trouble. I mean, she did it once.
So, her space vehicle couldn't, but she could. She got through, and she has this little morphing moment, and then her eyes are blue at the end, and she has powers. And I was telling you this. I think this is another example of how the MCU is doubling down on the no mutants thing, because they've shown now that there's nobody in the MCU so far that's been born with powers. Nobody. And the people that do have powers either get them through exposure or through magic. And again, this is an example of someone who got it through exposure. They set it up. She's been through this thing 3 times now. It's rewriting her genetic code. That's not she's not a mutant. She was exposed to something. She got it, which is interesting because a lot of these characters in the original comics were mutants. Even WandaVision, even Wanda was a mutant. Pietro was a mutant. In this universe, they're not. So if they ever do bring in the X-Men, it'll be interesting if they actually do bring them in and call them the first mutants or what. But so far, we've yet to have a mutant in the MCU.
So that's kind of what a lot of the speculation is leading to for this House of M storyline that we're getting, because that was a big thing in the House of M storyline, was specifically around mutant existence. And I won't go too much deeper than that, because like, if anybody listens to this, if you haven't read the House of M series, you definitely should, because it's amazing.
There's a lot of it that inspired this show, but it's a totally different story for sure.
Sure, but there's a lot like what we have to remember is that this show is the first entry into the new phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe,
right?
And they've acquired an awful lot since the Infinity Saga. Like there's a lot going on there, and so they get to play around with just about whatever they want to. And if they need to come up with a way to explain the existence of mutants, I feel like these first few entries into the Marvel world, this new era of the Marvel world, this is going to be the time where they do it. I don't think that it's going to be an abrupt thing. I feel like it's going to be kind of gradual over time. We're going to see more and more stuff where they're like, this is kind of where it's going. But you're right. As of now, there's been absolutely no mention of evolution having anything to do with any super powered character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But Maria Rambeau becoming Photon is kind of the first foray into like Wanda creating mutants. And obviously,
I mean, again, if you look at, and granted, I'm thinking of the X-Men definition of mutants is that it's a human that's gone through an evolutionary step, not they were exposed to something and got powers. Like, nobody thought that Daredevil was a mutant. He got exposed to blah, 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 blah. Nobody thought that Spiderman was a mutant. He got exposed to blah, 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 blah. Fantastic Four, exposed, blah, blah. So I don't see it as mutant, but again, we could be redefining what a mutant is, but anyway,
there's also some shakiness with like timelines and stuff, because we had really prominent characters who got their powers like way back in history and were still alive, a la Wolverine. And then we got kind of the same thing with some of the older mutants in the series, like Magneto discovering his powers during the Holocaust in that cinematic universe, not in the comic book side of things necessarily. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of leeway here, and this series is adding to that leeway. It's giving them a lot of creative opportunities here.
And they're still developing phase 3. And I think they're going to be sprinkling in stuff like that about mutants and about bringing in these other universes. But you got to remember, Kevin Feige had phase 3 mapped out before they acquired Fox. So I don't think there's going to be any major changes that we're going to get the X-Men in phase 3. I think, like you said, they're going to be peppering it in, and then that could be a major thing for phase 4. But they already had phase 3, on the chalkboard before they even acquired Fox. I don't think they're going to make any major changes just to incorporate a whole nother universe. And we could see things like this Quicksilver thing being a red herring to that and whatever. But they're definitely going to bring it in. Anyway, this episode ended with the reveal that Agnes was, as you predicted, Agatha Harkness.
Along with everybody else.
And it was almost underwhelming, because at this point, everybody already knew. It was just like, just do it already. She had the most catchiest song ever with, "It was Agatha all along."
Yeah, I found out that the same people who wrote the Frozen soundtrack. That's why it's stuck in your head.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
They got the right people to bring in a catchy tune and get it stuck in everybody's brain.
She has this fun little montage of everything from messing up the talent show to killing the dog, which we predicted that she did kill that dog.
I think, well, you
bringing,
did. I don't remember saying anything about that, but
to bringing back Pietro, she did that, and we had talked about that. It didn't. She said she calls him Pietro in the next fake Pietro. Anyway, that was the capper. So it was a bland episode, but then it had this awesome cap at the end of it, and we're like, "Holy shit, where does it go from there?" Episode 8, in my opinion, has been one of the best episodes of the season.
Out of the series so far, big time. They pulled out all the stops for this one.
Oh yeah, they still gave you more questions, but they gave you a hell of a lot of answers as well.
There was a lot of speculation, specifically around this show, and like when the speculation around Agatha Harkness coming out started showing up. That was also when people really started talking about Blade and how he's coming back, and how like that monster verse side of things is going to play in. So with that in mind, I don't think that we're going to see Agatha Harkness die in this series.
Oh, I'd be super pissed if she does. You can't just introduce somebody like that and kill her off 2 episodes later.
That's another reason, like to have her.
Granted, the MCU has a history of doing that.
She'll be otherwise dealt with. I don't know about dead, but her character's just so pleasant in this episode too, which pleasantly like disturbing.
Well, it starts off with this, which was a clever play when you first see her walking. She's being dragged. Trials. The Salem witch trials, and when you think of Salem witch trials, you think of people executing women who were accused of being witches. In this case, it was other witches that are saying, "You've gone too far. You're dealing in some dark magic that is above your pay grade." And
pay grade. I love that.
And they decide to wipe her out, and she's like, "Yeah, no."
I'll just
even the queen. Yeah,
her mother.
Even the queen can't do it. Well, and I don't think she was mother. I think she was the mother, as in she ran the coven. I don't think she was actual mother. But
mother figure though, still
mother figure. Even she was like
trauma there of some kind.
Yeah, even she was like, "I got to put you down, kid." And Agatha takes out the entire coven, including the mother.
I love that you got this scene too, because she's got the crown. She's got that
crown, which was a cool aesthetic. Yeah.
So that plays a part later.
And this is huge because up until now, what did Thor say? Some people's magic is other people's science. No, this is legit magic. Like this isn't science. I'm pretty sure this is the first time we've got real magic in the show, like confirmed that magic exists.
Doctor Strange.
Oh yeah, no shit. Okay, well, this doubles down.
So, and that was, and I bring up Doctor Strange again because
I totally forget Doctor Strange. Yeah, as connected as this is to that.
Doctor Strange also comes up because we're talking about like an old time in the history of the world when this scene is coming up, and she was also accused of stealing the knowledge that she wasn't ready for. Right. And when she's and at the end of the last episode, she had a book that looks suspiciously like one of those rare books that you would see in Wong's library. Right. And so like we're thinking that there's going to be some crossovers there too.
Very well could be.
Like that might be like one of the big tying things for Doctor Strange showing up. Is that
now hundreds of years later, she's still wearing the pendant from the mom, and she's just badass Agatha Harkness in modern day.
She's also obviously gained some level of fountain of youth magic of some kind, which is when she was like sucking the essence out of those other witches too.
For sure, because that was in 1693 or something like that. So,
which is another reason it's pretty clear that she's not going to be killed off. She's going to be a character that'll probably stick around for a while. But right? Yeah, she like answers this episode answers the question specifically around: did Wanda get her powers from the Mind Stone, or did the Mind Stone enhance them? That wasn't a huge question at the time, because beforehand, everybody assumed that it was the experiments with Strucker on her and her brother that gave them their powers. But in this specific instance, specifically in the flashback scene that Wanda has, it becomes clear that she already had abilities of some kind.
It becomes suggested. I think it's
heavily suggested, though, bro.
Well, first off, we're back in the dungeon. Agatha continues her line of questioning that fake Pietro was questioning in an earlier scene.
Yep.
She's clearly asking Wanda how she's doing this. You know, like she is there because she's 100% curious. So it's really not that Agatha's doing this all along. Agatha's there because she was curious. She kind of got the magic ping that Wanda's been doing something here.
Magic ping.
So she's like, we're gonna watch some reruns of your life and figure out how you got, because that's what we've all been saying. Like, we've seen Wanda do magic before, but nothing on this scale. And even Agatha here is like, well, let's go back and figure out how.
Let's watch some real reruns.
So they go back. They go back to this scene, which I think we've all heard about, and it was really cool that we could see it. But we do see, before we get to the Stark bomb moment, we see what her life was like as a kid, that her dad was selling sitcoms on the corner in Sokovia, which is where we get this sitcom. Which is where we get this sitcom. The whole aesthetic comes from, this is where she found pleasure as a kid, watching old sitcoms, which is, I think, really cool. I think a lot of us thought about that. Her favorite was Dick Van Dyke.
That was one of the earliest speculations about this show as to why it was that it was like it was a method of her dealing with her grief. And then this just solidified that was exactly what was going on.
And it worked. I really liked that they did that. And while they're watching the Dick Van Dyke show, bomb goes off. And then she and her brother are trapped under a bed while they're watching the toaster or the Stark bomb blinking, waiting to go off. And while we don't necessarily see it, Agatha suggests that it wasn't a dud. It was her casting a probability spell to keep it from going off. So, I mean, it was heavily implied.
It was heavily implied, but we saw the character
Agatha.
actually reaching out, trying to do something. Like she had some sort of an inclination that she thought she knew what she could do in that scenario. And then Agatha takes a shot in the dark as to what she actually did.
She questions it, and Wanda even says back, it was a dud. And she was like, was it a dud, or did you cast a probability square? And then we get to the next skip. We get to her volunteer thing.
Holy shit, this scene, man.
This scene was great.
This scene.
We saw at the end of... What was it? At the end of Captain America Winter Soldier, there was that end credit scene where they said the volunteers, and we saw Pietro and we saw Wanda in little glass cages. This shows a little bit more of her time when they were being experimented on with the they didn't know it was the Mind Stone at the time, but it was Loki Stat. Yeah. And she straight up sees herself as the Scarlet Witch. I don't think she knows it's herself. But this was a pretty crazy scene.
Yeah, it wasn't. We never really got to see the face of anybody. We don't know if she thinks that she saw herself either. It doesn't get addressed.
No,
but
what does get addressed is when they try to watch the footage later. It's edited, just like the edited footage in WandaVision. So she's been doing that all her life.
But at the same time, we don't know if it was her intentionally doing it. Because we know that the Mind Stone has kind of a mind of its own at the same time as well, and obviously a power to bend reality in a certain way as well.
Well, the Mind Stone definitely comes out to her, not to everybody else. It comes out to her, shows her something big, and Agatha suggests that it opened up. It embraced what might have died off within Wanda, and it empowered her to become to start having powers and to become what she is. Then we got another time jump to Avengers,
pretty much right after Civil War, or not after Civil War. Before
this was during Civil War,
after Age of Ultron.
Age of Ultron, before Civil War, correct? But they're at the Avengers compound. This is before she was grounded, but she's definitely like
she's still dealing with the grief of Pietro at this point. Like she hasn't been there for very long, and
you see
Vision
she's
hasn't
comforting
been there for very long
herself
either. Like they're both kind of in that same moment where they're like, we don't really know what we're doing here.
They're both the newbies, for sure. She's comforting herself with a stack of shows. She apparently got Tony Stark's credit card and bought a bunch of sitcoms because that's how she's comforting herself.
She's watching Malcolm in the Middle in this particular part, which was the reference to the Halloween episode.
Yep, Bryan Cranston has made his MCU debut. Vision comes in.
Did we actually see his face? Did they actually show his face in the show when they were watching?
Yep, they do.
Okay,
they do. He because he was the one holding the hammer. They do show his face like briefly, but yeah.
I couldn't remember.
Vision comes in and was like, "Is it funny because the guy's getting hurt?" And she's like, "No, he's not really hurt. It's not that kind of show," which I thought was clever writing. But then the most
line out of
the entire show, this entire show. She's saying that the only thing that can make her happy would be to see him again. He's like, is there anything I can do to lift your spirits? Do you want to talk about it? She's like, why would that bring me joy? The only thing that could bring me joy is to see him again. And he says that, what is grief if not love persevering? And holy shit, that's just a line.
I've never experienced loss because I've never had a loved one to lose. Essentially, he's jumping in there. So he's looking at it from a completely logical point of view, just based off of the understanding that he has.
Yeah.
And that's the line that he comes up with out of his logical mind. And instead of it sounding like just a logical solution, it sounds like Vision's first human moment.
I mean, and it's one of many. If you go back and you look at his other things, there's that, something isn't beautiful because it lasts forever or something like that, or
because something isn't beautiful because it lasts. That's when he's just about to wipe out Ultron for the final time,
talking about
Ultron, the final Ultron. There's still some wonkiness that might be going on there too.
But he's known for these Shakespearean level lines, and he drops that on her, and it's beautiful. And it's kind of like they kind of do this whole little eye connect thing, and it's the first maybe the first step into their relationship, but it was a beautiful moment. Even Agatha wipes her eye, like wipes a tear from her eye.
I swear, man, like Marvel is coming up with some lines that's putting these Pinterest bitches to shame.
I know.
Like all these live, love, laugh bitches are like, I need to come up with like a next saying, and then a fucking cyborg from a comic book movie just buries any idea that they had.
And
I love it.
I get it. They're writing in the romance that we didn't see a lot of on screen, because on screen before this show, we saw them in Infinity War just like on the run together, and we're like, whoa, how did they get here?
Civil
they made
Pepperkish. Like, even Civil War, they were kind of like, because that was when he was trying to cook for her, and
he was her keeper
a little bit, but it was,
and she straight up put him through the floor. But somehow we got from that to Infinity War, where they're on the run and some in Europe together.
We needed some explanation as to how this romance bloomed to the level that it got.
Right.
But when we got there, it was like, okay, this is gorgeous.
So then she's like, so okay. Agatha's like, all right, so what did you do when you lost him? You lost everybody, then you lost him. What did you do? And we already know what she did, because the director's shown us the video of her going into, like, storming into Sword and taking the body. And we find out that didn't necessarily happen. In fact, she didn't storm in. She walked up to the receptionist.
This was Marvel playing that chess game that they're so goddamn good at.
Yep.
Of letting those fan speculations last, and like it's misdirection. Like they're letting you speculate about all this other stuff while they've got this real banger of a thing going on in the background, and people aren't talking about it. They're like, you know what? That's fine. Let them not talk about it. Let them see where this is going. They took a completely believable plot line that she broke in there, stole his body. We even saw
this was the corpse.
we even saw the scene in episode 4 where she sees Vision in a flash memory of him being like all grayed out and the stone ripped out of his head, and it was like a harrowing moment in the show. They're like, yeah, let it fly, let it keep on going.
And even I was completely convinced that she was animating the corpse because they built such a good story that we believe that something like that could actually happen. And this isn't like, oh, you're dumb, or hey, we're not that dark of a show. This is just like, no, we had something else in mind. And this is just as clever. Again, I don't feel like this guy is the big bad. I feel like he's a big dick, but he fucking goats her. He's like, hey, come to my office, look down. Yeah, and they're straight up tearing Vision apart. Tearing Vision, and I guarantee you he like called them in seconds before she got to his office and said, hey, start tearing him apart right now and make it as gruesome as possible. I want his legs on different tables. I want you tearing him apart. Make it so that she sees it. And he's pushing her. He's egging her on. He's saying, this guy doesn't belong to you. You know, we're not going to let you take him. You're the only one that could bring him back online. He's definitely trying to get her to turn him on because he hasn't found a way to do it in 5 years.
Yeah, and he even says in a later part of the show, it's actually a post-credit scene that they had taken him apart and put him together maybe 1,000,000 times.
Right,
like they tried everything.
It's not like they were just now dissecting him. They were dissecting him because she was there. Like he straight up told them to do it and do it, gruesomely to get her to see it.
I also don't think it was the first time they had done it.
It wasn't. No, it clearly wasn't. I think that he was just like, get in there, start doing it.
I don't know how you would hastily take apart vibranium.
Well, yeah. But they were like pulling the limbs apart and they were doing it slowly so that all the wires were like almost like techno blood. You know, he was like, do it slow, do it gruesome. I want her to see, and I want her to see what she does. And she does break the glass. That wasn't fake footage. It was just edited footage. She didn't actually take the body, but he was hoping she would turn him on. And she gets down there and says, you're not here. I can't feel you.
Yeah. The grindy thing that they did on his head felt fully unnecessary. Like that part, I was like, what are you trying to accomplish there?
I want to know was that a vibranium tool? How are they grinding vibranium?
It must be. I don't know.
Do they have vibranium tools now?
I mean, Wakanda has been sharing their knowledge with the world for 5 years at that point.
It's the most expensive drill at Home Depot, made with vibranium.
Right.
What did he say? It's like $3 billion worth of vibranium. I'm not going to let you take that and put it in the ground.
Yeah. She wanted to give him a funeral. Like, she wanted to properly grieve, and this dude was just fucking her up.
And she was asking. She wasn't pissed. She didn't go in there storming. She was asking. And then when she realizes he's not there, she just leaves. She's heartbroken, but she leaves.
And then we notice that there's a note in her car that I don't think got placed there. I think she brought that with her or something. Like I think
she didn't look at it like, what's this?
Because like she obviously knew where to go. And then we find out, like, after she pulls up to this empty plot of land after driving by some of the characters that we have seen in Westview,
which I recognize all of them but Herb. I did not recognize Herb till the second time I watched it, and I was like, holy shit, he looks so different.
And and then she gets to this empty plot of land and realizes that Vision either bought or hacked his way into like owning the deed to an empty plot of land. Who knows what Vision did? He's fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And it was for them to grow old together. And then that is when like the grief finally just becomes way too much for her to handle. And she breaks the best. Like we get her like the best Wanda Maximoff moment. Because like we've seen superheroes in some grief, but I don't think anybody's had it shittier than Wanda has.
No. And she took that grief out on Thanos, and even then you're like, damn, girl. Like she was fucking him up.
She would have wiped him if he hadn't like called in an artillery strike on the entire field.
Darcy said the Blitz. Yeah. But she's like, you could just tell. She's just like, I am done. I'm so done. And she breaks and she builds the house that they would have built together. And then as soon as the house is built, as soon as the house is built, she changes the town. She changes the town immediately to match the house turns everything black and white, and then if she can't bring Vision back to his corpse, she straight up manifests him, which is interesting that it's the yellow from the Mind Stone, but she manifests him in front of her, which was a pretty powerful scene too, because considering we all thought it was a corpse, nope, she just made him, which is interesting. She made him, which leads to we all know it's not like he has sperm, which we all kind of assume that she made the kids, but for some reason we thought this was actually Vision, but it's not. It's Vision from her memory and from her own manifestation. And we just have that sweet moment where he's just like, he looks at her, and then she is kind of taken aback by what she's done, and then she steps into character, into black and white.
Steps into frame.
He says, "Wanda, welcome home," and bam, the show has begun, So
they sit down, they watch TV together, and then we break out, and she hears her kids. We finally get the answer. It's like, okay, were the kids did Agatha wipe out the kids at that point? No, we find out that is not the case. So yeah, Tommy and Billy are being held hostage. I feel like Agatha's motives here are going to kind of continue along the line that she's been doing. She wants to use Wanda for something. Like, she's not quite done, and so we've got a couple hostages here.
We had that animated cartoon in the last episode of I survive off feasting on your magic or whatever. And we've seen that that's what she's done in the past. She's drained other witches in her coven. That's how she's as powerful now. That's why she was drawn to this level of magic. But then she does a name drop.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because
it was an
earlier in the show, the director dude looks over at our FBI agent, and he's like, "Does she have a nickname?" And he's like, "No, she's just Wanda." And everybody else was like, "Yeah, she has a nickname. It's the Scarlet Witch, damn it." And then I realized that we've never actually called her that in the show. And then Agatha's here, like, you are capable of spontaneous creation. That's chaos magic.
It's chaos magic. And I lost my shit at that moment because
she actually names
that's a big
it.
Reference.
And she talks about other magic earlier. She was like, I had to make up fake Pietro because, one, your brother's body is on another planet or is on another continent, and that's necromancy. So she's named other forms of magic, but she says chaos magic, which makes you the Scarlet Witch. And credits.
Yeah. And then we get a post-credit scene, though. Like, it wasn't quite over. We get another mid-credit scene. In this one, which they had done one other time, and it was when we see it was after episode 7, where Maria kind of tracks Wanda into
Monica.
Agatha's house, or not Maria. Maria's her mom, I think.
Yeah.
Monica gets tracks her to the house, and then Pietro shows up again. But we didn't get to see what resulted in that during this episode at all, so we're gonna have to wait until the next one.
Right. No mention of that in this episode.
There. This end credit scene, we find out that the big dickheads over at Sword did manage to, using the energy from the drone that Wanda pulled out of her reality, they were able to turn Vision back on.
Yeah, and they gave him a paint job.
Yeah. And this is also, like, Grey Vision is another reference to the comics where so I guess, do you want to know? Like, do you want me to go into that part, or would you rather?
Are you saying Grey Vision? Because I thought this was White Vision.
Well, White Vision, Grey, like it's had a bunch of different names.
I mean, you can speculate, because I think if anything, this show has proven that it's rare that.
So far, they've followed things along pretty well. Like, so, like, comic book speculation has been paying off pretty well. Aside from the Mephisto theory, that disappeared. For now anyway. We don't know if it's going to go any further than that. But White Vision has his memories. He has the memories of Wanda and all that stuff, but he is void of emotion. And obviously that causes some struggle. because she gets a version of Vision who knows who she is, but is like a husk of what he used to be, and Wanda does not take to that too terribly kindly, and I imagine we're going to see that play out in this finale episode.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a theory, and I haven't had time to go back and see it, but there's a theory that in Age of Ultron, when they were beating the shit out of Ultron in the end, Ultron loses his left arm, and the first thing that Vision does in this mid-credit scene is look down at his left arm, and everybody's like, "It's Ultron!" Which, to my friend Mark's credit, if it's Ultron, that would be freaking insane, and I would dig it. I don't think we have enough time for a final villain. I just want to see the story play out because we've only got one more episode. Unless it's a 2-hour episode, I don't think there's enough time for another big bad. An adversary, yes, but a big bad. But if this is Ultron, that would be crazy, and it wouldn't be too far from likelihood that there's a version of Ultron still out there. This was the original plan for Ultron to be put as this in. It's the Terminator storyline of, well, we can control it, so the director putting Ultron in this, but it's a modified version of Ultron. I could see it happening. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's a fan theory out there. It's kind of cool.
It's going to be interesting, but the chaos magic mention also brings up, really solidifies that we're probably going to see Doctor Strange, because chaos magic is incredibly dangerous to the fabric of reality, which is like the entire thing that the Sorcerer Supreme, that the Sorcerer Collective is supposed to protect the world from. And
not to mention, I think Agatha says you're supposed to be a myth or something like that. It's not something that apparently she's not witnessed in 400 years. So
even in the comic references that I was able to find, it's not widely referenced, and that there's a lot, they kind of touch on that theme again, that it was really not, they really weren't even sure if it was real. And so this is kind of the first discovering of it. I don't know if they'll get necessarily into the origin of it, because the origin of chaos magic in the comics has a lot to do with Wanda again, specifically around some ancient beings. I don't know if they're going to go that direction. If I had to speculate for the final episode, I want to say that Doctor Strange is going to be prevalent in the episode, but I don't think he's going to be. I think he's probably going to show up more towards the end, as kind of another piece of the puzzle of them trying to figure out how to deal with Wanda. Maybe she breaks. Maybe she fully breaks. Maybe things get a lot worse. I don't or something. I don't know.
It wouldn't make sense that this show ends in a nice tight bow, because it's the beginning of the new phase. So I could definitely see it ending on a cliffhanger, and we see Doctor Strange shit, this is just opened up a whole can of worms, because granted, they've been painting Wanda as a little more of a victim in the last couple episodes. They've changed her tone, whereas in the first couple episodes, we're like, man, if she really is doing this is some dark and sadistic shit. It's still saying that she's doing it, but it's painting her as more of a victim, or she did, she keeps on saying, I don't know how this happened. Well, now she sees that she is the one who did this, but it's still not. And even she said it in the last one, maybe I'm the villain. But even all of us were with Monica, well, you're a tortured soul. You're not really villain yet. But, if she's supposed to, I just wonder what the fallout is going to be, because according to this episode, she is the one that's been doing all this, which means she is the one that those townspeople refer to as, it hurts, she's in my mind. That's not Agatha. That is her.
Yep.
So she has been torturing this town, which, bad life for sure. But she is torturing a town full of people. Where are we going to go with this?
I honestly, I'm not even cutting myself off because of time constraints or because I'm starving or anything like that. But I just straight up don't know what direction to go at this point.
I don't either, and I love it. I love it that the end is not telegraphed for us. I can't wait.
It's, obviously there's a lot of room for speculation, but like the accuracy of it at this point is like, yeah, I can assume based off of like a lot of the predictions that we've made thus far have been in line, not like 100% concrete, correct. But I mean, there've been obviously some surprises, but, and they honestly didn't start pulling those surprises out until these last couple episodes here. Or even more just specifically this one here, but, because we didn't get Mephisto and then we find out that Vision was not stolen. And those were two big things that they kind of kept under wraps really, really well. And that kind of like shook my faith in any speculation that I could make being at all right. Because,
but not in a bad way. Like I'm still not disappointed.
Like, because you bring it up, it's like, you know what? Marvel's just way better at this chess game than I am. So I might think that I know what's going on, but they're gonna put me in check out of absolutely fucking nowhere.
But that's quality writing. If you can see the end before the end, then the writers didn't do a good enough job of hiding that from you, and yeah, I'm very happy with the writing of this show. Unfortunately, the cynic in me is just like, there's no way that Falcon and the Winter Soldier is going to be as good as this show.
Yeah, but that's a worry.
Of all the things to complain about, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm sure it'll be just fine. But either way, I'm super stoked. I don't know about you, man. I don't know what your weekend is going to be like, but I don't think I'm going to be able to wait until Monday to talk about the finale. So depending on your availability, if you want to get together over the weekend and talk about this finale, I'm down for sure.
So I'll be stuck at home. So, cause I'm on call. I might not be able to escape that notion. You might have to jump in it.
Well, we don't have to make a 2-hour episode, but we could definitely
I'd love to do a watch party of some kind, like a live watch party would be pretty cool. But, I don't know if you could wait. I don't know if you could wait as long as you would have to watch the episode with me at the same time.
We'll talk about the logistics of that. I might be able to do that for this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Then. Well,
sounds good.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, Nerf Herders. We appreciate you guys checking us out on our whatever maybe weekly basis, if we want to call it that. We're gonna try and keep things a little bit more consistent for you. But for now, hit the like button if you like this video. Hit the dislike button if you didn't. Be honest, we can take it. Hit us up in the comments below. What are your speculations? What are your theories? What were we wrong about in any of the references, any of the stories that we were talking about? What did you think about Spotify? What did you think about the Golden Globes? Let us know. Like, we want to have you be part of that conversation, and don't forget to subscribe so you know when to catch our next series, because we're going live on these. Could happen at any freaking moment. You never know.
Absolutely.
But yeah. So yeah, like, subscribe, follow us on social media, be a part of the conversation, and until next time, we'll see you guys later. Have a good one.
See ya.